Welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. The show where each week a panel of respected marketing strategists, all trained and certified by the legendary Dan Kennedy, share their wisdom, experience, strategies, and insights on how to use Dan Kennedy's philosophy on business and marketing in any type of business, and that you can apply to your business immediately. Here's your host, Craig Valine.
Hey everybody, it's Craig Valine. Welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. I'm here with my guest panel, the Dan Kennedy Independent Business Advisors, experts, peers, friends. And this month we're talking about Dan Kennedy's No BS Wealth Attraction in the New Economy book. And we're dealing with the wealth magnets. And so if you haven't read this book, this is not a book about making money. It's not a book about creating wealth. Both words, making and creating, reinforce what he calls the work-money link, a limiting idea that will change and a chain that will break in this month's episode. So words like make or create suggest you obtain wealth only through and in proportion to effort exerted. These words imply that wealth comes primarily, if not only, through hard work and through extreme exertion. This episode is about attraction of wealth. And Dan has used this word deliberately to make yourself magnetic to money. So this month we're focusing on a different wealth magnet, which would be wealth magnet 10, do something. So Richelle, let's start with you. You recently had some life events that kept you from doing what you love to do in business, and then you have recovered mostly. Talk about what you did to get going and what it's done for you.
Sure. I recovered. So I think it's kind of public knowledge, but if folks don't know, I was diagnosed with stage 2.5 breast cancer. So now the good news is that my breast only looks like an organic yam, Thank you. I'm here all weekend. So part of that was a lot of chemotherapy. So going from long hair to this, I don't know what this is. Then I've got the bald spots. That's always fun. But I knew that on the days that I could not eat, on the days that I could not walk by myself to the restroom, when I couldn't shower alone, that I knew that I wanted to be back here, right? Doing what I love. So I took this principle that I learned from Dan in 2008, and I decided to do something. What can I do? And one of the things that Dan always talks about is massive implementation. So I just wrote down all of the things that I could do to be outside again, to now that I shower alone, sometimes not on purpose, but I do shower alone. And I can walk by myself. I'm no longer in a wheelchair, which is really amazing. And as I said, they're not as lifted and as separated, but that's coming because it's part of the what I get for having to have that foreign entity in my body. I just decided to do a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the things that I've noticed that people have said to me is, how did you know what to do? Right? Well, I didn't know what would work. I didn't know specifically what would work. What I did know is by massively implementing, I could figure out what works, what doesn't work really, really quickly. And that's one of the things that I always just kind of help other people do. But thank you for allowing me to talk about, get your tatas checked. All of y'all that are listening and all of you men here that have women in their lives, make sure that you check them for them, or that they go get them checked too.
Yeah, thank you, Richelle. The reason I picked you first was a story is always good to start with, but I have a personal story as well, and a few years ago I moved to Las Vegas, And the moment I decided to move to Las Vegas, everything went against me. Everything. I mean, I lost money, I lost clients, I lost my phone, I lost my bank account, I lost everything. I had met with Richelle actually right when it started happening, and we started to do what I know what to do, but it just nothing worked. And to be honest, I nearly died. I mean, it was just not that good, and that's not an overstatement. Find my way back to Los Angeles, and found some people that I kind of had a spiritual experience, which has nothing to do with do something, but I just had one, and that was by doing something, going to where I knew I should be, where people would support me, and everything was big. But the point being is that I had lost everything and I had to start somewhere. So I started by doing what I know, getting on the phone and calling people who I had done business with before, inviting them to dinner and talking about the good old days and all that stuff, but also talking about what I had plans for. What did they need? What did they want? And even though I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't have, I didn't exactly know where I was going, I kind of asked and listened, and then I did the next indicated step. And then I stabilized, and then I made money, and then I made a lot more money. And then, the point was being I lost everything. But by just taking the next indicated step, I was able to, rise again, if you will. So, the point being is that if you sit and do nothing, you sit in your seat and do nothing, nothing will happen. So, so Steve, talk about just the basic definition, the basic.
How am I supposed to follow?
Well, I mean, it's, you don't have, you just follow with who you are and what you know. The point of being is a lot of people do nothing and expect results. Talk about why doing something matters. What happens when you do something?
Because Dan Kennedy tells you to do something and do something every day. So one thing I've been doing every day for 7 years and 1 month now is I've been creating a new Facebook Live video every single darn day since the middle of March 2017. Now, does that mean I feel like doing it every day? Does that mean it's convenient to do every day? Does that even mean I got something to talk about every day? No, but it doesn't stop me, like you say, Craig, from doing something every day. And what happens is not necessarily just because of what I say or do on that specific video, clients come running to me, but I do hear all the time clients say, you know what? I want to work with you because you obviously are someone who, when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Because I know that you don't feel like doing a video every day, and yet you do it every day, and I want to work with you. Or I just binged watch all of your videos. You clearly know your stuff. Boom. So not only is it a Facebook Live video that I'm doing something on Facebook, I put that on all my Facebook groups, pages, and then I put it onto my blog, onto my podcast, onto YouTube, onto Rumble, onto LinkedIn, or whatever. So now people, wow, man, every day you're putting a post on LinkedIn. Every day you're giving great business tips on X. Every day you're on Rumble. What? Because I'm doing something, like it or not, do it every day. It's not easy to do. I know Richelle's been doing it now for 100-something days. She can tell you it's not easy to do. After 7 years, it gets a little bit easier, but you could ask my beautiful wife, Michelle, the day doesn't end until, like, honey, I have to do my video. Oh, it has to do his video. No matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, has to do his video. It's only going to take 5 minutes, but then it's going to take another 20 minutes to repurpose it up onto all the sites and this and that, whatever. But I'm doing something every single day, whether I like it or not, and then I reap the rewards from it. So I keep doing it.
Awesome. Dan says wealth seeks movement. The act of taking action in and of itself is a magnet for opportunity and wealth. Mark, talk about your own personal experience related to that.
In the super conference that Jim McCann spoke at, there's one thing he said that I repeat and quote him all the time, and I tell all my clients and everywhere I can share, and that is Jim McCann says that he lives his life just throwing grenades. He throws grenades. So I thought, that a lot of times some of the best progress you get is by just getting going, even if it's in the wrong direction. So you can really take your best educated guess on what should work and just throw the grenade to see what happens, because then you can adjust. Example, everybody was so caught up on the Facebook ads, and we tried it, got early great results, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. This is the way it's going to go. But like everything else, things that really are great, they get harder and harder and more expensive till they don't work anymore or become illegal, right? So just by heading in that direction, you start to, people get pigeonholed. You know, they get like focused on sometimes the wrong things or working on the wrong end of the equation. For that example, I found my most recent best results going back to the caveman days, and we were talking about doing events. And I've been sponsoring events because when you look at the cost per lead, you know, the cost per client acquisition, I'm getting better numbers sponsoring an event and actually just being kneecap to kneecap. Think about it. Your ideal audience, if you pick your events correctly, are right in front of you, and you're skipping that whole suspicion of an internet marketer because you're not reaching them on the internet. You're actually there in person, so they're not standing in front of you with their arms, you know, figuratively crossed. It really shortcuts the curve. So taking that action, and something linked to throwing grenades, Dan always says something, another thing that always sticks with me is every single day he takes at least one action that is a client or a generating activity or a prospect generating activity. And linked to that, he always does it first before all the other tasks on the list, all the menial tasks. It's always what are the money-making tasks or the money-making task I'm going to do, put that first on the list.
Awesome. Ben, talk about this concept, wealth seeks movement. How have you used that in your life or helped your clients with it?
Yeah, I think that Dan Kennedy maxim of imperfect action will always beat inaction. And so there are times when, like with this, with the Dan Kennedy Certified Business Advisors program, that opportunity was up there. I could have kind of just looked at it and said, well, that's interesting. I'm not sure. But no, I took whatever the next best step was. I reached out about it. And then the next best step after that was meeting with someone. And then it's like finding, then later down the road, it's like finding the money to invest in it. But then it's like, oh, well, now, what have I done? Now I actually have to put on a meeting. So just the next step of, find a meeting location. But I didn't have to do all of those things at once. And I didn't have to do them perfectly. When I started all of it, I wasn't and still I'm not Dan Kennedy. I don't have his mind, but what I could do would be to know, what is my agenda for the next meeting? Who are the people I can invite there? Just putting those out there. And when you do that, you start to build momentum. Each action, however imperfect, breeds another action. Maybe that action's fixing what you just did, but it's still putting it out there in the universe. And I think it's really important to make that distinction between consumption and real action, with real action being something that you put out there, like in the real world, versus, I need to read this other book, or I need to like tweak my logo, or I need to watch this other video series. I really need to get all the information. No, you need to move quickly from any kind of gathering information step. Just get enough to take that next action and figure it out as you go along. I think all of us have found ourselves in that position where it can be easy to get caught up and stuck in that spiral of, well, I just need this really before I take action. No, it's imperfect action will always beat inaction.
Yeah. Chuck, so many ideas go to the grave without being action. Talk about what is something, if somebody has an idea, what should they do first?
Well, first of all, procrastination is the bitter enemy of success. If you procrastinate, you will not succeed. And Dan Kennedy has said many times that we all have $1 million ideas 2 or 3 times a year, but we don't act on them. Therefore, we didn't make the $1 million. Dan also said that good is good enough. That doesn't mean putting out crap, but you need to get going. Write the sales letter for whatever product you're launching, and it's really good today, but you got to make it perfect. 6 months later, you'll still be procrastinating and not getting it launched. So that's the whole thing in working with clients. If they have a good idea, you need to encourage them. In fact, in this chapter, Dan talks about, I thought it was a good story about an ex-girlfriend who was a tremendous artist, and he gave her the whole marketing plan on how to make more in a month than she made all year, but she didn't act on it. And it also became an ex-girlfriend. So I don't know what other actions she didn't do, but leave that for Dan.
Thanks, Jack. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor.
This episode of The Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever is sponsored by Steve Cypress. Get a free video on how to solve all of your sales and marketing problems and have fun doing it using the WOW strategy at www.thewowstrategy.com. That's www.thewowstrategy.com. Now, back to our show.
All right, Dan, we're back. Someone says, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. What are some ways that you would suggest for people to figure out what to do?
Well, so one of the best ways, and we've talked about this a little bit, is get out and get around people who are doing. Okay, that was one of the beautiful things, and I still do it at our chapter meetings. It gave people an opportunity to get in a group of people who were doing things. And then they had a chance to bounce ideas off of other people, and something that motivates people a lot. And I've motivated a lot of people by what I do, because they say, if he could do it, I could certainly do it. And so that's a lot of times, people go, wow, that guy's doing that, or that girl's doing that, I could do that. So I think one of the best ways is to get started is to get around people who are doing it. And another thing that I would say that helps me a lot is I get Dan Kennedy's gold letter every month. And a lot of what Dan talks about, yes, there it is. And a lot of what Dan talks about, we have all heard before in different ways, but to be reminded. And Mike Capuzzi a few episodes ago talked about, Dan said, quit trying to invent, go sell something. Right. And how many times have we all heard that, right? Well, I went, damn. So I went out and on my to-do list every day I said, sell something. And son of a gun, people bought. Okay, so you got to get out, and that, again, that helps me get things done, because when I see it and I read it and I'm reminded of things, it gets me to take action. And then the other thing I would say is, too many people worry about, what if this doesn't work? What if I'm not doing the right thing? One of the biggest things, and especially in today's world, is you have to learn and adapt all the time. We're seeing marketing going at a breakneck pace. The changes with AI and how much social media changes. And if you're not willing to adapt, and I have this conversation with our clients, a lot of my clients, this is probably going to be hard to believe, but I'm older than a lot of my clients. No. And they act like old men sometimes. They act like old men, and I have to tell them, look, I'm older than you, and I'm not getting stuck on this. You need to adapt and make changes. So years ago, when I had the auto repair business, I was making a lot of money with fax broadcasts. And for those of you that don't know, fax broadcasts basically got outlawed. Okay. Fortunately, because Dan Kennedy warned us, I started getting permission to fax people. And so I never lost it, but a lot of people did. And then I was making a lot of money with voice broadcasts. Okay, same thing happened. They put a bunch of rules in, and the government came in and said, you can't do that. Well, again, I was getting permission, so I never lost any of that. And I was teaching my clients, hey, get permission. I haven't get permission to send emails now, because wouldn't surprise me if Uncle Sam doesn't jump in and try to restrict what we can send and so on. So do things, but be ready to adapt and make changes and move forward. And don't resist all these changes. Not everything is right for everybody, but there's some changes you just have to be ready to do. And I'll share one more example with you. I had a client based at 4 or 5 years ago, had almost no presence on Facebook. Today, they have a huge presence. I did nothing on Facebook because they just weren't there. Now I do a lot of business on Facebook with that group. And so things are always changing, sometimes evolving. It just people, clients, and businesses are in different places and they move on. And so learn to adapt and find ways to get around this information, be with other people to help get you started, give you ideas, and get you motivated.
Very good. Oh, and someone says, I don't know what to do. What tools and resources are available for people to figure out what to do, to find out what to do?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little apocryphal, but running ads to test book covers. Tim Ferriss talked about the 4-hour work week was named the 4-hour work week because he ran ads on, I think it was Google, and that tested best. So that's how he wrote the book. And I said, like, I don't know whether that's literally true, but
it's a good story.
It's a great story. And because the 7.5-hour work week, that just doesn't have it, right? But I think that the number one most important thing to get moving is talk to customers, is try to sell something. And Dan has talked about how, if he had his way, he wouldn't send anybody's kids to college. He'd, have them selling rug suckers door to door, which is probably illegal now. But there's a lot to be said for that direct marketing. And just as if I can dad brag for a minute, we did that with our sons. My boys made jam, and they had honey from local producers and stuff, and they went to farmers markets. And my oldest son hated it. He absolutely hated it. And so he's 12. He's like, "Can I mow lawns instead?" And well, yeah, but you got to do this too. And the younger one embraced it. Like they had the samples and, "Hello, ladies, would you like to try some jam?" Well, no little old lady's not going to try. And just they made tons of dough on a Thursday night from 7 to 9. They'd make $300-$400. And so I was coming back from some event, and the oldest one that didn't want to do it phone, he said, "Dad, we made $600 today." Uh-huh. And I said, "How many lawns do you have to mow to make $600? And can you do that in 2 hours?" No. And then you got gas and bugs and all this, right? So basically all you did for 2 hours was you gave them something they wanted and you got to visit. And maybe somebody pinched your cheek a couple times. And so that message of getting out and doing something and pushing through, their discomfort was a big lesson to that's one of my big dad moments. I'm glad I made them do that. And but it's more to your question, Craig. I don't think you can replace all the market research in the world is all great, but you got to find who's going to reach in and grab the credit card. And I think that maybe that's another call another day, but I think that something that for a lot of people mistake marketing and movement for you, but where's the transaction? And that's where I would advise everybody to look first. Okay, all the stuff is great. Where's the transaction? Otherwise, I think we're fooling each other.
Sure. Very good. Joe, I'm going to ask you, what tools or resources are available for someone to find an answer to something?
I think basically finding a local group like Dan Cricks has talked about, going there and getting ideas from people that are there, other business people. A mastermind is really the thing to get involved in. Running, because you can run things out there and say, "What do you think? How will it work?" Those are some of the things to look for. You can't just do it always by yourself and wing it. Or I'll read a book and I'll take that thing out of it and I'll try it. because sometimes I think meeting other people, business people, and that could be part of a networking group. I mean, I am part of a networking group that, yeah, we do referrals and so forth, but we also have a portion of it where we talk about business and what's good, what's going on, and what I need some advice. What do you think about doing this kind of an email system, or email approach, or whatever it is? So I think those are part of it. And again, what are you doing? You're getting out of your house, you're getting out of the office where everybody else is busy doing things in the company, and you're, instead of working in it, you're really spending time, out of the office, but working on that company.
So what I was fishing for was Google. So how I became the smartest marketer this guy ever knew was he emailed me and he says, "How do I blank?" And I said, "Hold on a second." Brrr, type into Google, "How do I buy a mailing list? How do I meet people in authority? How do I blank?" And so many times, just Googling, "What do I do? How do I do this?" That sort of thing is great. ChatGPT is a new good tool. It's not the definitive tool, but it's certainly a tool that you can use. There's no reason ever to be stuck, to not do anything. Someone knows someone knows something. And 6 Degrees of Dan Kennedy, we can, or Kevin Bacon, whichever one is more important. But, the other thing I want to talk about, Dan alluded to it, Dan Cricks, the newsletter that Dan Kennedy and Pete Lillo put out. The article says doing versus done. There's a lot of people who are in motion, but aren't getting things done. And Dan, I was listening to Russell Brunson's podcast, has Dan's old speeches and stuff like that, and was selling versus marketing. And, he's talking about, hey, the fax machine's down. Okay, then call someone about it. And then he checks in 15 minutes later. "So what's happening with the fax machine?" "Well, I left a message." "Are they coming?" "I don't know. Get back on the phone and make sure they're coming." "All right. I called and they said they would send someone out." "What time will they be out?" "I don't know. Get back on the phone and tell them what." It's like there's a thing about doing versus getting it done. A lot of entrepreneurs are constantly in motion, but nothing is getting done. So we have to get wrapped up here. And again, this is a topic that could go on forever and ever, and I appreciate everybody's answers. But Steve, leave us with a tip, 20 seconds or less, on how to get more shit done.
I'll leave you with the contrarian response to that, is that entrepreneurs are starters, not finishers. The world has plenty of finishers, plenty of doers, plenty of task doers that you give them tasks and they'll do it well. We're the visionaries, we're the leaders. So find the followers, find the doers. Go to Fiverr.com, Upwork.com, go to wherever.com, go to somewhere in person, hire somebody. Find the finishers so you can finish all your stuff. Recognize, come to grips with the fact that we are starters, but then you got to delegate to get somebody else who is a finisher to finish things. That's how you get stuff done. Get someone else to do it.
Yeah, very good. Richelle, last tips, 20 seconds on doing something or getting things done.
Yeah, doing something. I think that a lot of people get analysis paralysis, right? Or they just stop and don't want to do something because they're afraid of making the mistake, or afraid of just doing something in the wrong direction. And so I'm here to tell you that things, when you do them, are compounded. And so whether you're doing it right, whether you're going even in the wrong direction, it's not wasted, because nothing in this entrepreneurial process is wasted. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So even the late nights, the early mornings, I'm only on day 98, Steve, of my daily video. Yesterday was 98. What the hell, right?
You were on day 98 like a month ago.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, you're right. We should get it all done, right? Just do something. Damn it.
Awesome. Owen, leave us with some final words, 20 seconds on doing something or getting things done.
Control your environment. Get rid of distractions. Throw your phone away or put it somewhere else. Don't let people knock on your door at any given time, so that you can get focused work done. And the Pomodoro method, or any of the zillion variations of it, is huge. So focus work an hour at a time, take a little break, do another hour. If you can get 3-4 hours a day, like, come on, you're ahead of 99% of the whole rest of the world. But that can't happen with this thing going off all the time, or your emails. I had no notifications for anything, nothing. I'll go look when I'm ready to look.
Awesome. Chuck, final words on doing something and getting things done.
Real quick, just a Robert Ringer quote: "Nothing happens till something moves." Kind of like what Richelle said.
Very cool. Mark, final words.
When you're trying to determine what you should be doing, or what you could be selling, or what people will give you money for, or you are trying to avoid procrastination, my advice is to let your world, your universe, be your idea pool and your accountability partner. I like using a tool like a Survey Monkey, or, you send out a survey to your audience. What do you need help with most? Try to determine that. You'll get a ton of mileage from that, trying to figure out what people actually want to buy. And how about this? You want accountability. You want to actually get something done. Like, say you wanted to get your book done. Make that a public announcement that, hey, I'm writing a forthcoming book. Want to hear what you want to learn most about. Let your universe feed that back to you. You'll get a ton of mileage marketing wise, going back and forth, communicating what people want. Here's what people want, feed it back to them. And then people are going to be asking you now, hey, when's that book getting done?
Very cool. Very cool. Ben, final words. Getting things done or doing something.
Yeah, here's a physics quote: "Objects at rest tend to stay in rest and don't attract wealth." That part isn't physics. That part's Dan Kennedy. But objects in motion stay in motion and do attract wealth. So if you're stuck on something, you're going to stay stuck until you take that next motion. You can break it down just to the smallest, most viable step. But then once you take that step, then that creates that motion, that creates that forward ability to then take the next little step, and so on and so on. And so if you're stuck, you have to get unstuck and take whatever kind of motion you can, and then that will propel you into a better, more positive cycle.
Awesome. Joe, final words. Do something. Getting things done. 20 seconds or less.
If you're going to do something, as we talked about before, you need to, like Owen said, plan some time. I wouldn't plan time for myself between 4 and 5 o'clock at the end of the day. I'm kind of at that point, my brain is like, okay, this is overtime and I can't handle it. So I would rather do it in the morning. Sit there. Phones are quiet anyways, even though I will, shut them off and so forth, and just sit there, even if it's 1 hour. If you get 3 to 4 hours a week, you can start putting things together, and then you get it out on a system. Make it easy for yourself. So.
Very good. Dan, 20 seconds or less on doing something and getting things done.
Well, I have to come back. This was referenced, Dan's gold letter. Just kind of look at some of the markups that I have on this. This helps me get things done and get ideas done. So I just want to share with everybody that, as much as we talk about Dan Kennedy, this letter is available, but it's not available online. So if anyone, I'm an affiliate, if anyone wants to order that, they can email me at resultsmarketing@sbcglobal.net. It's only $28 a month, but from the markups, you can see that helps me get ideas and get moving forward and get things done.
Dan, maybe we'll put that in the comments for the description so people can do that, because I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. One thing I want to say is embrace imperfection. What you're doing may be right, maybe not. Don't worry about that. The key is taking action, taking the first steps. And seek help from experts. Seek help from one of us. Seek help from someone else. Get a referral from one of us, but we're happy to help if you need it. So that is it for this episode of the Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever. I want to thank my guests here for being on here every episode. Awesome responses. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you, the watcher, the listener of this show. We do this for you. So we meet every Thursday, so we'll see you next Thursday. If you want to receive a free gift from all our panelists here, go to mostincredible.marketingshowever.com. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye now.
Thank you for joining us this week on The Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever. New episodes are available every week on Thursdays. To receive a free gift pack from our expert panelists and get access to show notes from previous episodes, be sure to visit our website, www.mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell up in the right-hand corner to be notified of future episodes so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you clicking the like button and leaving a comment on what big aha you got during the show. That's it for today's episode. See you next week.